My name is Emma Rodriguez, and I'm 29 years old. For 12 years, my well-off parents treated me like their personal assistant, while my younger brother Marcus lived like their golden child. Every holiday, every family gathering, I was handling logistics while he entertained guests. But last New Year's Eve, when my mother demanded I organize a celebration for 30 of Marcus's business contacts with just 48 hours' notice, something inside me finally shifted. What happened next didn't just change our family dynamic. It revealed a truth that left everyone, including a tech industry executive, completely stunned. Before I tell you how I went from being the family organizer to having my parents request my forgiveness, please take a moment to like and subscribe if you genuinely enjoy stories about personal growth and standing up for yourself. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Drop a comment below. I read every single one. Now, let me take you back to that December evening when everything transformed. I was in my San Francisco apartment, carefully folding clothes into my suitcase when my phone rang. The caller ID showed Mom, and I already knew this wouldn't be a pleasant conversation. In our Palo Alto family home, New Year decorations sparkled on every surface. I knew because I'd been the one arranging them every year since I was 16. "Emma, cancel whatever small plans you have for tomorrow," my mother Patricia said without even a hello. Her voice had that familiar commanding tone that expected compliance. I continued folding my business blazer. "What's happening tomorrow?" "Marcus is hosting his tech networking group for New Year's Eve. Very important people. Emma, 30 guests, including executives from quantum technologies." She paused, and I could practically hear her satisfaction through the phone. "You'll need to arrive by 10 a.m. to start coordinating. 5 entertainment stations, catered appetizers from 3 different cuisines. The timeline's already planned." My fingers tightened on my phone. Marcus's networking group. Of course, my younger brother worked in software sales and never missed an opportunity to remind everyone how well connected he was. "Mom, I have travel plans. Your brother's making important connections that benefit this family. You should be grateful to help." Her words stung like they always did. "It's not like you have anything pressing going on." I glanced at my laptop where an email from David Kim, CTO of Quantum Industries, glowed on the screen. If only my mother knew. "Use the good serving pieces," she continued. "These aren't your usual crowd, Emma. These are people who matter. People who matter, unlike me, apparently. I'll text you the vendor list," she said. "Don't let us down." The line went dead. I looked down at my plane ticket to Austin. Departure time 7:00 p.m. tomorrow. My hand wasn't even shaking anymore. After 12 years of this, I'd finally learned the difference between their emergency and my priority. I sat on my bed, memories flooding back like a bitter tide. 12 years of being invisible, except when they needed something. Every Thanksgiving since I was 17, Emma would handle the coordination while Marcus entertained our guests. Every Christmas, Emma was between opportunities again, but at least she was useful for organizing. Every family gathering, Marcus was introduced as our successful son in software sales, while I was simply, "Emma's here too. She's helping out." The last family party had been the worst. Marcus's promotion celebration, 150 guests at the country club. I'd spent 16 hours coordinating vendors while Marcus held court in a $2,000 suit our parents bought him. When one of the guests asked what I did for work, my mother had actually laughed. "Emma doesn't have Marcus's business sense, but she organizes well." I stood up and walked to my closet, pulling out my second suitcase. Inside, carefully protected in a leather folder, was the contract that would change everything. My company's name, Phoenix Solutions, was embossed in gold at the top. I'd deliberately chosen a name that didn't include Rodriguez. For 4 years, I'd built my empire in silence. 75 employees across 4 locations, a client list that included major tech companies and Fortune 500 corporations. And tomorrow, while my family expected me to coordinate their event, I had a meeting that would secure a $3.5 million contract. My phone buzzed. Marcus's text. "Mom says you're handling tomorrow. Don't mess it up. Important people will be there." I looked at my plane ticket again. Flight 223 to Austin, departing at 7 p.m. "Not this time," I whispered to the empty room. For once, they'd have to figure it out themselves. I had a plane to catch. The irony wasn't lost on me as I continued packing. 2 clear signs had shown me exactly where I stood in this family, and I'd ignored them for too long. The first sign was how they introduced me. At last month's country club dinner, my father had literally told his tennis partner, "Marcus is our success story. Emma's exploring opportunities." Exploring opportunities? I'd closed a $800,000 contract that very morning, but to them, I was perpetually searching, perpetually struggling. They never asked about my work, never wondered how I afforded my San Francisco apartment or my new car. Their assumption was so complete that when I mentioned traveling for business once, my mother had laughed. What business? Are you calling your little consulting hobby a business? Now the second sign was even more obvious. Last summer, I'd visited home to find my childhood bedroom had been converted into a storage room for Marcus's overflow electronics. My achievements, my books, everything that marked my existence in that house was boxed up in the garage. Marcus needed the space, my mother had explained as if it were obvious. He's building his career. Presentation matters in tech. Meanwhile, Marcus had been given the entire second floor, renovated at our parents' expense, complete with a home office and gaming setup. The message was crystal clear. One child was an investment, the other was invisible. I zipped my suitcase closed, remembering the company holiday party last week. My employees had thrown me a surprise celebration for landing the Quantum account. 75 people who saw my value, who respected my leadership. My phone lit up with another text from Mom. Don't forget the special dietary accommodations. These people have sophisticated preferences. These people. As if I didn't regularly coordinate events for CEOs and industry leaders. But why would she know? She'd never asked. The deepest hurt was that they'd never even been curious. Not once in 4 years had anyone in my family asked, "So, Emma, what exactly do you do all day?" They'd created their own narrative. Poor Emma can't find her direction. Lives in a small apartment, probably surviving on savings from Grandpa. I'd invested that money into my business. At least she can organize. I employed 2 executive coordinators and a full project management team. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my photos. There I was shaking hands with the mayor at a charity tech summit I'd organized. There was my team celebrating our 4th location opening. There was the feature article about me in Tech Leadership Quarterly, the quiet innovator of business solutions. None of these moments had been shared with my family. I'd learned early on that success without their permission was somehow threatening. The one time I'd mentioned landing a big client, my mother had immediately pivoted to Marcus's latest software demo for some startup. "At least you're useful for organizing," she'd said, patting my hand like I was a child who'd drawn a particularly nice picture. I opened my laptop and looked at my company dashboard. Phoenix Solutions, established without a penny from my parents, built without the Rodriguez name, thriving without their approval. Tomorrow's revenue alone would exceed what Marcus made in 4 months, but they'd never know that. My assistant had texted earlier. Inquirer magazine wants to feature you in their 35 under 35 issue. They're especially interested in your story of building the business without family connections. Without family connections? If only Inc. magazine knew the half of it. My family hadn't just withheld connections. They'd been actively blind to my existence beyond their event planning needs. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, or been treated like your success doesn't matter, you'll understand why I did what I did next. Drop a comment below. Have you ever had to hide your achievements from unsupportive family members? I read every comment, and it means the world to know I'm not alone in this. And if you're finding value in this story, please consider subscribing. We're building a community of people who refuse to let others diminish their light. Now let me tell you about the realization that changed everything. My phone buzzed with a calendar reminder, and reality hit me like cold water. If I stayed silent and played the organizer tomorrow, I'd lose everything I'd worked for. The Quantum Industries contract wasn't just another deal. It was the deal. $3.5 million exclusive consulting rights to their 5 regional offices, and a partnership that would put Phoenix Solutions on the national map. The meeting was January 2nd at 8 a.m., non-negotiable. David Kim, Quantum's CTO, had been crystal clear. "I'm flying back to Seoul on the 3rd. Emma, if we don't finalize this in person, the board will go with our second choice." Our second choice, my competitor, who'd been pursuing this contract aggressively. But it wasn't just about the money. 75 employees were counting on me. Sophia, my head of operations, had just put an offer on her first house based on the expansion this contract would bring. Alex, my project manager, was planning to bring his parents to better health care. This wasn't just my dream anymore. It was theirs, too. I pulled up my bank statements. Yes, I was successful, but this contract would change everything. It was the difference between being a regional success and becoming a national player. The kind of opportunity that comes once in a career. My phone rang. It was my CFO. Emma, just confirming you'll be at the resort tomorrow evening for the pre-meeting dinner with David's team. I'll be there, I said, looking at my packed bags. Good. David specifically mentioned he's excited to meet the CEO who built such an impressive company without any family money or connections. He said it's rare to find that kind of authentic success, without family money or connections. If he only knew how true that was. My phone pinged with an email from my mother. The subject line read, "Urgent New Year's Eve coordination." My stomach turned as I opened it. 5 entertainment stations, catered appetizers, dietary restrictions for 8 guests, beverage pairings, decoration setup. The level of detail was staggering. She'd planned every single element, every timeline, every vendor contact. Use the crystal glasses and the silver with the family crest, she'd written. These are important people, Emma. One of them is David from Quantum Industries. He could be valuable for Marcus's career. I nearly dropped my phone. David. David Kim was going to be at my parents' house. I quickly scanned the guest list my mother had attached. There it was, clear as day. David Kim, CTO, Quantum Industries. My heart raced as I processed this impossible coincidence. The same man I was meeting in Austin was going to be at my parents' house, expecting to be served by their directionless daughter. Another text from Marcus popped up. Mom says David Kim will be there. He's huge in tech. I'm hoping to pitch him on some ideas. Don't embarrass me with your amateur organizing. Amateur organizing. I'd just coordinated David's company retreat for 800 people last month, though we'd handled everything through my executive team. He'd never met me in person. That was scheduled for tomorrow. I sat down hard on my bed, the weight of the decision overwhelming me. Stay and coordinate for the man who was about to make me a millionaire, pretending to be a failure, or leave and risk my family's anger, but secure my future. My Uber notification popped up. Your ride to SFO Airport is scheduled for 5:30 p.m. tomorrow. I looked at the coordination checklist again, then at my contract, then at my plane ticket. The choice had never been clearer. I made my decision. I picked up my phone and dialed my mother's number. She answered on the first ring. Finally, I was starting to worry you weren't taking this seriously. Mom, I can't do it. Silence. Then her voice turned sharp. What do you mean you can't? I have a business trip. I'm flying to Austin tonight. Don't be ridiculous. Her voice rose. What possible business could you have? An important meeting, she actually laughed. Emma, stop being selfish. Your brother needs this. Marcus has a full event planning team he could hire. With what money? Do you know how expensive that is? I bit my tongue. The irony of her asking me about event planning costs while talking to someone who owned an event solutions company was almost too much. Family comes first, she snapped. Or are you too selfish to understand that? I understand perfectly. Family comes first when you need something from me. How dare you? When's the last time you asked about my life, Mom? We know about your life. You're between opportunities living in that tiny apartment. I'm a CEO. Another laugh. This one cruel. A CEO of what? Your imaginary company? It's not imaginary. I have 75 employees. Emma, enough with the fantasies. Marcus needs this. You owe us. I owe you? We raised you, fed you, kept you in our home, while treating me like hired help. You're being dramatic. What else do you have to do? Sit in your apartment alone on New Year's? I looked at my business class ticket. I have a flight at 7 p.m. Cancel it. No. If you leave, don't bother coming back. The threat hung between us, the same one she'd used so many times before. Usually it worked. Usually I caved. Then I guess this is goodbye, I said quietly. You can't be serious. I'm done being the family organizer. Mom, I'm done being invisible until you need something. You ungrateful. I hung up. My hands were shaking. But for the first time in 12 years, it wasn't from fear or anger. It was from freedom. My phone immediately exploded with texts from Marcus. What did you just do? Mom's having a meltdown. Stop being so dramatic and get over here. I turned off my phone and continued packing. They'd figure it out. They always did when they had to. I turned my phone back on to set one thing straight. It rang immediately. Marcus, what is wrong with you? He yelled. Mom's calling all the relatives saying you've lost your mind. I have a business meeting on New Year's Eve. Stop lying. I'm not lying. This is about that argument last month, isn't it? When Mom gave me your room. My room was converted to your storage years ago, Marcus. And no, this is about my actual career. What career? You consult sometimes? I own a consulting company. Sure you do. His voice dripped condescension. Look, I'll pay you to coordinate. How's $300? I almost laughed. My day rate for personal consulting services was $8,000. Not that he'd ever know. This is non-negotiable, Marcus. I'm not coming. Mom will disown you. That's her choice. You're really going to ruin New Year's? Ruin my networking opportunity? David Kim will be there. Then hire coordinators on New Year's Eve. Are you serious? No one's available. I walked to my kitchen counter where I'd left a notepad earlier. On it, I'd written 3 event companies that handled last-minute emergencies along with their 24-hour hotlines. It was more than they deserved. But I wasn't completely heartless. I left a note on my kitchen counter with some numbers. I'm not driving to San Francisco to get your note. Then, Google emergency event planning services. You're being selfish. I'm being professional. My business requires me to travel. What business? He screamed. Stop pretending you're something you're not. The Uber notification popped up. Your driver will arrive in 2 hours. I have to go. Marcus, if you do this, you're dead to us. I'm already invisible to you. What's the difference? I hung up and turned off my phone completely. On the kitchen counter, I placed the note with the event planning numbers in clear view just in case they somehow came by. Next to it, I left a copy of my business card, the one that read Emma Rodriguez, CEO, Phoenix Solutions. They wouldn't come. They wouldn't see it. But at least I'd know I tried to help, even as I chose myself for the first time. The plane lifted off from SFO at exactly 7:07 p.m., and I finally exhaled. Below me, California disappeared into a blur of lights. Somewhere down there, my mother was probably frantically calling every relative, painting me as the ungrateful daughter who abandoned family on New Year's. I pulled out my laptop and opened the quantum contract one more time. There it was, Clause 18.2. CEO presence required for all strategic planning sessions. David had insisted on that clause himself, saying he only worked with founders who were hands-on. My email inbox showed 23 new messages from David's team, all confirming tomorrow's schedule. The pre-meeting dinner at 6 p.m., the formal presentation at 8 a.m. on the 2nd, and the contract signing immediately after pending board approval. I clicked on David's latest email. Looking forward to finally meeting you in person, Emma. I've been following Phoenix Solutions' growth for 18 months. Your reputation precedes you, my reputation. If only he knew that the same woman he was about to partner with was supposed to be coordinating his entertainment at my parents' house right now. A text from my assistant came through the plane's Wi-Fi. Inquirer magazine wants to know if they can mention your family background in the article. They're interested in the built from scratch without family support angle. I typed back. Tell them the article runs January 3rd, correct? Yes, it goes live at midnight on the 2nd. Perfect timing. By the time my family realized who I really was, the contract would be signed and the news would be public. I pulled up the draft of the Inquirer article they'd sent for approval. The headline read, From Invisible to Invaluable, How Emma Rodriguez Built a Consulting Empire Without a Dollar of Family Money. The universe. It seemed had a sense of humor about timing. The Austin resort suite took my breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the hill country, and a bottle of champagne waited on ice with a handwritten note. Welcome, Ms. Rodriguez. Looking forward to our partnership. David Kim. I set down my bags and checked my phone. 52 missed calls from my mother, 21 from Marcus, and even 4 from my usually quiet father. I deleted the voicemails without listening. Instead, I opened my email to find something that made me smile. My PR manager had sent the final proof of the Inquirer article with a note. They've moved you to the cover story. It'll be on every newsstand January 3rd. The cover, my photo, professional, confident. Nothing like the invisible daughter my family knew would be on Inc.'s cover. The article detailed everything. How I'd started with $8,000 saved from freelancing, how I'd built the company without investors, and how I'd specifically chosen to succeed without trading on my family's connections. Another email caught my eye from David himself. Emma, I'll be arriving late to tomorrow's dinner, coming straight from a social obligation in Palo Alto. Hope that's all right. Palo Alto. He was at my parents' house right now, probably wondering where the promised elaborate coordination was. My assistant texted again. The Ink reporter wants to know if you'll mention your family's reaction to your success. I thought about it. Tell them my family will find out when everyone else does, when the magazine hits stands. That's cold, boss. I love it. I walked to the window, watching the lights twinkle across the Texas landscape. In 10 hours, I'd sign the biggest deal of my career. In 48 hours, my face would be on every Ink magazine in the country. Sometimes the best response isn't confrontation at all. It's success they never saw coming. While I slept peacefully in my Austin suite, chaos reigned in Palo Alto. According to the texts I read the next morning, the disaster had unfolded exactly as expected. By 5 p.m. on New Year's Eve, my mother had realized I wasn't coming. The event space remained unorganized and empty, the vendors uncoordinated, and 30 hungry guests were arriving in 2 hours. Marcus's panicked texts told the story. Mom's losing it. She's calling every event planner in a 100-mile radius. Everything's closed. How could you do this to us? My father had finally texted at 5:45 p.m. Your mother is having a breakdown. Please reconsider. At 6 p.m. sharp, the guests had started arriving. Tech executives, venture capitalists, and most importantly, David Kim, CTO of Quantum Industries. They came expecting a well-coordinated New Year's Eve celebration, the kind my mother had bragged about for weeks. Marcus's text at 6:28 p.m. read, "We're ordering takeout." Takeout. Emma, do you understand what you've done? At 6:52 p.m., Mom just told everyone you're unreliable and always have been. She's blaming you for everything. The food had arrived at 7:20 p.m., 8 boxes of Chinese takeout and 4 pizzas, because one restaurant couldn't handle the last-minute order. My mother, who'd spent weeks bragging about her daughter's elaborate coordination, had to serve delivery food on her good china. Marcus's increasingly frantic texts painted the picture. David Kim looks disgusted. People are leaving. Mom told everyone you're mentally unstable. She said you've always been the family disappointment. The last text from Marcus, sent at 8:45 p.m., read, "Party's over." Everyone left early. David Kim didn't even stay for midnight. Mom says you're dead to her. I put down my phone and ordered room service breakfast. In 4 hours, I'd be having dinner with David Kim. I wondered if he'd mention the disaster at my parents' house. I wondered if he'd recognize my last name. Most of all, I wondered what my mother's face would look like when she learned the truth. The pre-dinner meeting at Quantum Resort was scheduled for 6 p.m. I arrived early, wearing my best suit, ready to close the deal of my lifetime. What I didn't expect was David Kim walking in with a story to tell. "Emma," he greeted me warmly, though he looked tired. "I have to apologize for being late. I just flew in from the most bizarre New Year's Eve party in Palo Alto." My heart rate stayed steady. I'd practiced for this moment. "Oh, what happened?" I asked. "You won't believe this," he said, sitting down and shaking his head. "I was invited to what was supposed to be an elegant celebration. The hostess, Patricia Rodriguez, actually, same last name as you, funny coincidence, had promised this elaborate event coordinated by her daughter." I nodded, saying nothing. We arrived to find absolute chaos, no coordination, unorganized vendors, and the hostess scrambling to order takeout. Takeout for executives and business owners she'd been trying to impress for months. That must have been awkward. It gets worse. She spent the entire evening bad-mouthing her older daughter, calling her unreliable, mentally unstable, a disappointment to the family. Apparently, this daughter was supposed to coordinate everything, but just disappeared. David pulled out his phone, showing me a photo someone had taken at the party. There was my mother, face flushed with embarrassment, takeout containers visible on her precious dining table. The younger son, Marcus, kept trying to salvage things, but it was a disaster. He actually tried to pitch me business ideas while serving Chinese food on china plates worth more than most people's rent. "Did you stay long?" 20 minutes after the food arrived. The hostess was so busy making excuses and blaming the absent daughter that she forgot to actually host. It was— David paused, searching for words. "The most unprofessional evening I've ever experienced. The woman actually said her daughter was too directionless to hold a real job, so she usually just coordinated events for them." My hands remained steady on my portfolio. "That's terrible. I can't imagine treating family that way." David opened his menu. "Now let's discuss something more pleasant. Your incredible company. The next part is where everything unravels spectacularly. If you've been waiting for the moment when truth meets consequences, you're about to be very satisfied. But first, what would you have done in my position? Would you have revealed yourself right then to David? Or would you have waited for an even more perfect moment? Let me know in the comments. I love hearing different perspectives, and remember, if this story resonates with you, that subscribe button helps us reach others who need to hear it. Now for the moment that changed absolutely everything. The next morning, January the 2nd, I stood in Quantum's boardroom, ready to present to David and his team. The contract was on the table. The presentation was flawless, and everything was going perfectly until David's assistant walked in with a tablet. "Mr. Kim, you need to see this. There's a photo from that Palo Alto party going viral on LinkedIn." David took the tablet, and I watched his face change from curiosity to confusion to complete shock. He looked up at me, then back at the screen, then at me again. "Emma," he said slowly. "This photo from the Rodriguez house in Palo Alto." He turned the tablet toward me. Someone had posted a family photo from my parents' wall. The one from last Thanksgiving where I stood in the background, barely visible, while Marcus posed front and center with our parents. "Is this you?" I nodded. "Yes, Rodriguez. Patricia Rodriguez is your mother?" "Yes." The room went completely silent. David's team exchanged glances. The legal counsel put down his pen. "The woman who called you unreliable, mentally unstable, and unemployable is your mother?" "Yes." David stood up, walked to the window, then turned back to face me. "You were supposed to coordinate that event, the one that turned into a takeout disaster." "I was, but you were here meeting with us. I chose my business over being treated like an assistant." David pulled up something else on his phone. "Your mother said you don't have a job, that you're a failure who can only coordinate events. She doesn't know about Phoenix Solutions. Your own mother doesn't know you're a CEO." "She never asked." David sat down heavily. "Let me understand this. Your family has no idea that you run one of the most successful consulting companies on the West Coast. None. They don't know about your 75 employees, your 4 locations, this $3.5 million contract we're about to sign. They think I'm directionless and living in a studio apartment." David's business partner, Lisa, spoke up. "I'm sorry, but I need clarification. The woman serving Chinese takeout on fine china last night has no idea her daughter could have coordinated that entire event with professional quality. She's never asked what I do for a living." "She just assumes I'm a failure," David started laughing. Not a polite chuckle, but actual genuine laughter. "Oh my goodness. She spent the entire evening complaining about her disappointment of a daughter. And that daughter is you, the CEO I've been trying to partner with for 18 months. He looked at his team. "Gentlemen, I think we're about to sign the most interesting contract of our careers." David pulled out his phone again, this time opening Google. "I have to know something," he said, typing my name. The search results loaded instantly. "Oh my goodness." He turned his phone toward his team. "Look at this." The first result was my Tech Leadership Quarterly feature. The second was the announcement of my Innovation Award nomination. The third was a Forbes piece about women entrepreneurs. Your family doesn't know about any of this." Before I could answer, his assistant rushed in again. "Mr. Kim, you'll want to see this. Inkiers magazine just announced their 35 Under 35 cover story for tomorrow." He projected it onto the boardroom screen. There I was, professional headshot front and center with the headline, "From Invisible to Invaluable. How Emma Rodriguez built a consulting empire without a dollar of family money." David read the preview aloud. Rodriguez, 29, built Phoenix Solutions from an $8,000 investment into a multi-million-dollar enterprise, deliberately avoiding any family connections or support. "I wanted to prove that success doesn't require a famous last name or family money," Rodriguez states. He looked at me. "This goes live tomorrow at midnight. Your family still doesn't know. They will when everyone else does." Lisa whistled low. "Your mother is going to see her directionless daughter on the cover of Inkier magazine." David's assistant was now scrolling through the article preview. "It says here you have an 8-month waiting list for projects. Is that true?" 10 months for peak consulting season." David stood up. "I need to make a phone call." He stepped out of the room, and we could see him through the glass talking animatedly on his phone. He returned 5 minutes later with a strange smile. "I just called Patricia Rodriguez." My stomach dropped. "You what?" "I told her I was very disappointed in last night's event and that I'd be taking my business elsewhere. She begged me to reconsider. Said it was all her older daughter's fault. Then I told her I'd just signed a $3.5 million contract with the most talented entrepreneur I know. She asked who. I said, "Your daughter, Emma Rodriguez, CEO of Phoenix Solutions." The room was silent. The sound she made, David continued, was like all the air had been sucked out of her lungs. Then she hung up on me. My phone, which I'd kept on silent, showed 53 missed calls in the last 3 minutes, all from my mother. David extended his hand across the table. "Ms. Rodriguez, let's sign this contract. I believe we have a partnership to celebrate." As I signed my name on the $3.5 million contract, my phone lit up with a text from my father. "Your mother just collapsed." What the heck is Phoenix Solutions? The contract was signed, champagne was poured, and my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I finally excused myself to check the messages. "Mom, answer your phone now." "Marcus, is this some kind of sick joke?" "Dad, your mother is hysterical. Please call." "Marcus, David Kim just told everyone you're a CEO." "Mom, this is cruel, Emma. Pretending to be successful to humiliate us." I walked back into the boardroom where David and his team were still celebrating. "My family thinks I'm lying about being a CEO." David's eyes gleamed. "Would you like me to send them something?" Before I could respond, he was taking a photo of me with the signed contract, the Quantum executive team, and the champagne. He typed quickly and hit send. "I just posted it on LinkedIn," he said. Tagged Phoenix Solutions, Quantum Industries, and Patricia Rodriguez of Palo Alto. The post read, "Thrilled to announce our 3-year partnership with Phoenix Solutions and their brilliant CEO, Emma Rodriguez. Her company's excellence in business consulting will elevate Quantum's operational efficiency across all divisions. Amazing to work with someone who built their empire from scratch." Within minutes, the post had dozens of likes and comments. Industry leaders I'd worked with for years chimed in with congratulations. Previous clients shared their experiences with Phoenix Solutions. My phone rang. "Marcus." I answered on speaker with David's permission. "This can't be real." Marcus's voice was shaking. "It's real. You've been a CEO this whole time. 4 years. Why didn't you tell us?" "You never asked. You all assumed I was a failure and treated me accordingly." Mom's having a breakdown. She's calling all her friends trying to explain. Everyone saw David's post. "That's not my problem anymore. How can you be so cold?" I looked at David and his team, all successful professionals who'd never once questioned my worth. "I'm not cold, Marcus. I'm done. I'm done being invisible until you need an organizer. I'm done being the family disappointment. I'm done pretending to be less than I am to make you comfortable. But we're family. Family doesn't treat each other like assistants. Call me when you're ready to meet Emma Rodriguez." The CEO, not Emma the coordinator. I hung up. David raised his champagne glass. "To boundaries." We all toasted, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly seen. That evening, I finally called my mother back. She answered before the first ring finished. "How could you do this to us?" She was crying. Actually crying. "Do what exactly?" "Humiliate us. David Kim told everyone at the country club about your company. People are calling asking why we didn't know our own daughter was successful. You never asked about my life." "Mom," we asked. "We knew you did some consulting. You assumed I was a failure. For 4 years, you've introduced me as directionless. You've never once asked about my work, my apartment, my life. You should have told us." I tried. "Remember 2 years ago when I mentioned landing a big client? You immediately started talking about Marcus's new software demo. You literally said, 'That's nice, dear, but Marcus's work is really taking off.'" Silence. I left event planning numbers on my counter. I continued calmly. "You could have saved the party. We don't have keys to your apartment. You've never asked to visit my apartment. You don't even know where I live. That's not... Mom, I employ 75 people. I have 4 locations. I've been featured in multiple publications. I was nominated for an innovation award, and you thought I was directionless because that was easier than actually seeing me. Where's this coming from? My business needs a CEO. My family needs an assistant. I chose my business. This is about spite. No, Mom, this is about self-respect. I've built something amazing, and I did it without any of you. Not your money, not your connections, not even your belief in me. What do you want from us?" "Nothing anymore." That's the point. For the first time in my life, I need absolutely nothing from you, Emma. The Inkier article comes out at midnight. You might want to prepare yourself. It details exactly how I built my company without family support. You told Inc. about us. I told Inc. my truth. If that embarrasses you, maybe you should think about why. I heard my father's voice in the background. Patricia, maybe we should listen. I'm done listening. My mother snapped at him, then to me. You've destroyed this family. No, Mom. I've finally built my own life. Call me when you're ready to be part of it. As equals, not as manager and assistant. I hung up gently, feeling lighter than I had in years. The social consequences came swift and brutal, but not for me. Within 48 hours of David's LinkedIn post, my family's carefully curated reputation had crumbled. The country club gossip mill was working overtime, and Marcus's panicked texts told the story. Quantum just canceled our software consulting contract. David Kim said they don't work with people who lack family values. That was a $400,000 annual loss for Marcus's firm. Mom got removed from the charity board. They said it was unrelated. But everyone knows. Dad's tennis buddies are asking him how he didn't know his own daughter was a millionaire. The Inc. article had gone viral in our Palo Alto social circle. The headline alone, "Built without a dollar of family money," was damaging enough, but the quote that really destroyed them was buried in paragraph 4. My family assumed I was directionless. It was easier to build an empire in silence than to fight their assumptions. My father finally called me directly, something he hadn't done in years. "Emma, I need to say something." I waited. "I knew you were doing something with consulting. I saw the business registration years ago when mail got mixed up, but your mother was so certain about who you were supposed to be. I should have spoken up. I'm ashamed. It was the most honest thing he'd said to me in 12 years. Why didn't you?" I asked, because it was easier to let her narrative stand than to fight it. I see now that made me complicit. Your success is remarkable, and we missed it because we weren't looking. Dad, your mother has lost 4 charity positions. Marcus's firm is losing clients. Everyone wants to know how we could treat our successful daughter like hired help while praising Marcus for mediocre sales work. I never wanted to hurt anyone. You didn't hurt us, Emma. We hurt ourselves. We created a story where you were the failure and Marcus was the success. And now everyone can see we were blind. He paused. That takeout disaster is already country club legend. Patricia Rodriguez, who bragged about her event coordination for years, served Chinese food on fine china while her CEO daughter was signing multi-million-dollar deals. Despite everything, I felt a twinge of sympathy. Dad, I don't expect forgiveness. We earned every single consequence. While my family dealt with their social catastrophe, my life exploded in the best possible way. The Inc. article had included a photo of me at Quantum, signing champagne in hand, surrounded by executives who valued my work. The contrast to my family's New Year photo, where I lurked in the background like hired help, wasn't lost on anyone. Within a week of publication, Phoenix Solutions received over 300 inquiries. High-end clients who'd been considering us suddenly wanted to work with the CEO who built an empire from scratch. My inbox was flooded with interview requests, speaking engagements, and partnership proposals. David Kim became my biggest advocate. He introduced me to his network, telling everyone the story of the New Year's Eve disaster with barely concealed amusement. Imagine, he'd say, having a golden goose in your house and treating it like a regular duck. 4 major contracts came from those introductions alone. Worth a combined $15 million, I hired 30 new employees to handle the growth, promoting Sophia to Executive Operations Director and Alex to Senior Project Manager. During our expansion meeting, Sophia said something that stuck with me. "You know what I love most about this company? You built it for people who were overlooked. Half of us were told we'd never amount to anything." She was right. I'd unconsciously hired people like me, talented individuals who'd been dismissed, overlooked, or underestimated. My assistant forwarded me a text from a reporter. "Your story is everywhere. Business Network wants to discuss a documentary with the working title, Invisible to Invaluable, The Emma Rodriguez Story." But the best moment came when I received an invitation to speak at Stanford's Graduate School of Business. My dream school, the one my parents had said was too ambitious for me. The topic, Building Success Without Permission, Creating Your Own Path in Business. As I reviewed my speaking notes, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "We need to talk, please." I looked at it for a long moment. Then I archived it and went back to planning my future. Success, I'd learned, was the best response to disrespect. But boundaries were the best gift I could give myself. 3 months later, I agreed to meet my family at a neutral location, a quiet restaurant in San Francisco, my territory. They looked different, smaller somehow. My mother had lost her commanding edge, Marcus his arrogance, and my father seemed to have aged years. "Before anyone speaks," I said, setting down a single sheet of paper. "These are my terms." They leaned in to read. 1. Equal respect or no contact. 2. No more assistant treatment ever. 3. Public acknowledgement of my success. 4. A genuine apology, not just words. 5. Therapy, family, and individual. "This is non-negotiable," I continued. "I'll be your daughter, not your assistant. Your sister, not your staff." "Those are my terms." My mother's eyes filled with tears. "Emma, we've lost everything. My reputation. Marcus's clients." "That's not my responsibility, Mom. We know." My father interrupted. "We're not here to blame you. We're here to ask for a second chance." Marcus spoke for the first time. "I was jealous. You were always better at everything, but Mom made me feel special by making you feel small." I see how wrong that was now. It was the most honest he'd been in years. "I go to therapy now," he added quietly. "The therapist says we created a family system where someone had to be the scapegoat for everyone else to feel successful. You were assigned that role before you could even fight it." My mother reached across the table but didn't touch me. "I'm sorry. Not just for New Year's Eve, but for 12 years of blindness. I turned you into an assistant because I couldn't bear that you might be more successful than the life I'd planned for you." I looked at each of them. "I'll consider it, but know this. I'm not coming back to the same family. If we rebuild, it's as equals." They nodded. "And Mom, you're paying full price if you ever want Phoenix Solutions to coordinate anything." For the first time in months, she actually smiled. "Fair." 6 months later, I hosted my first family dinner in my actual apartment. The 3-bedroom condo with a view of the bay that they'd never known existed. My team from Phoenix Solutions coordinated it because I no longer organized family gatherings. That was a boundary I'd never cross again. As my parents and Marcus sat at my dining table being served by my employees who called me boss, the role reversal wasn't lost on anyone. But this wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. "I want to be clear about something," I said, raising my glass of wine. "Success doesn't need permission. Self-worth doesn't require validation. And respect is non-negotiable." My mother nodded. She'd been in therapy for 6 months and had publicly apologized at the country club, admitting she'd been blind to my success. It didn't repair her reputation, but it began to repair our relationship. Marcus's consulting firm had pivoted, and he'd asked professionally, humbly, if Phoenix Solutions might consider him for our tech consulting needs. I'd told him to submit a proposal like everyone else. He did, and it was good. We were considering it. My father had become my unexpected ally, finally finding his voice after years of silence. He now introduced me as my daughter, the CEO, with genuine pride. But the biggest change was in me. I no longer hid my success or dimmed my light to make others comfortable. My company had grown to 150 employees with locations in 6 cities. The Business Network documentary had aired to critical acclaim. And every single morning, I looked in the mirror and reminded myself, I'm Emma Rodriguez, CEO of Phoenix Solutions, not the family assistant. Never again. Your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth. Remember that. Thank you for joining me on this journey from invisible to invaluable. If my story resonated with you, I'd love to hear about a time when you had to choose yourself over family expectations. Drop a comment below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If you believe everyone deserves respect regardless of their role, please share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories about people who refuse to stay small. Remember, you're not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Until next time, this is Emma reminding you to know your worth and then add interest.